Hi there guys, I'm Nikhil from GreedyTech, and in this video, I'll be unboxing and doing a quick hands-on review of the Samsung Galaxy A12. Samsung has launched this phone in India in two variants. Base variant is priced at 13,000 rupees for 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage. Next variant is priced at 14,000 rupees for 4GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. It's available in three colors, black, white and blue, and we have the base variant in the blue color. Now the main highlights for this phone would be its quad camera setup, which is mainly about its 48MP camera, bigger battery, fast charging support and a fast charger inside the box. Besides that, rest of the stuff are pretty average and you'll definitely find better stuff in online exclusive phones. Anyway, first let's have a quick look at the unboxing. So here's the box, this is how it looks. On the back side, we have some highlights like its Infinity V display, which is just a dewdrop notch, a 48MP quad camera setup, 5000mAh battery, 15W fast charging and so on. Now let's unbox it. First we have a smaller box inside the lid. Next we have the phone itself, which I'll be coming back to in a minute. Next we get a 15W power adapter, and finally a USB Type-C charging cable. Now here's the box, and inside that we get a SIM card ejector and some documentation. Now back to the phone. Let me remove these stickers. Now this is how the phone looks on the front, and this is how the phone looks on the back. Now let's have a physical overview. On the back, this phone has a two-tone color finish with a nice texture on the top part and the Samsung branding at the bottom. We have just the quad camera setup at the top, followed by a single LED flash. On the front, we have the huge display with a dewdrop notch, some sensors above the display, and below the display, it's completely plain. By the way, chin of the display is quite big, especially when you compare it with some online exclusive phones. Now for the sides, on the right side, we have just got the volume buttons along with the power button, which by the way also acts like a fingerprint scanner. On the left side, we have just the SIM card tray, which houses two nano SIM slots along with a dedicated SD card slot. At the top, we have just the secondary mic for additional noise cancellation. Finally at the bottom, we have the speaker grill, USB Type-C charging port, primary microphone, and the 3.5mm audio jack. Now this phone has a thickness of 8.9mm and weighs 205 grams. Initial impressions, phone feels pretty sleek. It is on the heavy side, but considering the massive battery, we really can't complain. But Samsung has really done a great job with the thickness because it's really hard to make a phone sleeker with a bigger battery. So a big thumbs up for that. Now these are the complete specifications of this phone. On the rear, this phone has a quad camera setup with a 48MP primary camera, a 5MP ultra-wide-angle camera, a dedicated 2MP camera for taking portrait shots, and finally another 2MP camera for taking macro shots. For selfies, you get an 8MP camera with f2.2 aperture. On the front, this phone has a 6.5-inch Infinity V display with HD+ resolution. When it comes to performance, this phone sports a MediaTek Helio P35 processor with PowerVia GE8320 GPU with 4GB of RAM and up to 128GB of storage. Right out of the box, it will be running One UI Core 2.5 based on Android 10. Finally, powering this device is a massive 5000mAh battery, supports fast charging, and also comes with a 15W power adapter inside the box. Now let me turn on this phone and set it up and come back to you in a second. So guys, this is how the phone looks once we turn it on and set it up. Here's how the user interface looks like for the home screen, notification panel. Now let's check the about page. So this phone is running One UI Core 2.5 based on Android 10 with a January security patch, which is pretty decent. Now as for the storage, out of that 64GB of space, we get about 49.5GB of space for our user apps and user data. Out of that 4GB of RAM, we get 2.5GB of RAM free right out of the box. Now this is the camera interface. It looks pretty similar to the regular Samsung phones. You can just swipe left or right to switch between different modes, and the user interface is pretty similar even for the front camera. Now these are some sample shots. Now let's test the fingerprint scanner. By the way, this phone has a side-mounted fingerprint scanner, which is really not my preference. I would rather prefer a fingerprint scanner on the back instead. Anyway, performance is pretty good. It unlocks the phone in less than a second. Now let's test the face unlock feature. I've already set it up, so here we go. In good lighting conditions, it's pretty fast, unlocks the phone in a second. In low lighting conditions, surprisingly, it's also pretty fast. Finally, in complete darkness, it's a hit or a miss. Even if it works, it takes about 2 to 3 seconds to unlock the phone. Overall, face unlock works and it is pretty usable. Now this is how the speaker sounds on this phone. So guys, that was the speaker loudness. It's sufficiently loud enough for regular media consumption, ringtones and alarms. It's not too loud, but it is definitely sufficient. Now before I conclude, these are the benchmark scores. So guys, to conclude, Samsung Galaxy A12 is a pretty decent phone, but considering the price of 13,000 rupees for the base variant, I'll say it's overpriced. All the specs on this phone are pretty average. It feels like an entry-level phone. If you want my suggestion, I'll definitely suggest you to skip it. It's definitely not worth it. Consider phones from Redmi or Realme. For some reason, if you just want a Samsung phone, then get the phone from M series, which is definitely a much better value for money. So guys, what do you think about this phone? Do let me know by commenting below this video, and if you're planning to buy this phone, use the link in the description. It always helps the channel. With that said, this is Nikhil signing off. See you in my next video.